The White House, the official home for the US President, was designed by British-born architect James Hobson in the 1790s. Rebuilt after a British attack in 1814, the President's House evolved with the personal touch of its residents and accommodated such technological change as the installation of electricity. The building underwent major structural changes in the early 19th under Teddy Roosevelt, who also officially established the White House moniker, and again under Harry Truman after WW2. Counting the Oval Office and the Rose Garden among its famous features, it remains the only private residence of a head of state open free of charge to public. History World Promo, Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. Not only after the inauguration of President George Washington 1789, plans to build an official president's house in a federal district along the Potomac River took shape. A contest to find a builder produced a winning design from Irish-born architect James Hobson, who modeled his building after an Anglo-Irish villa in Dublin called the Leinster House. The cornerstone was laid on October 13, 1792, and over the next 8 years a construction team comprised of both enslaved and freed African Americans and European immigrants built the Aquia Creek sandstone structure. It was coated with the lime-based whitewash in 1798, producing a color that gave rise to its famous nickname. Built at a cost of $232,000, the story house was not quite completed when John Adams and Abel Adams became the first residents on November 18th. Thomas Jefferson added his own personal touch upon moving in a few months later, installing 2 water closets and working with architect Benjamin Latrobe to add booking and terrace pavilions. Having transformed the building into a more suitable representation of a leader's home, Jefferson held the first inaugural open house in 1805 and also opened its doors for public tours and receptions on New Year's Day and the 4th of July. Burned to the ground by the British in August 1814, the present house was nearly left in its smoldering remains as lawmakers contemplated moving the capital to another city. Instead, Hobson was brought back to rebuild it nearly from scratch, in some areas incorporating the original charred walls. Upon reassignment resigned in 1817, James Madison and his wife Codolay gave the home a more regal touch by decoration with extravagant French furniture. The building's south and north porticos were added in 1824 and 1829, respectively, while John Quincy Adams established the resident's first flower garden. Subsequent administrations continued to overhaul and bolster the interior through congressional opportunities. The Fillmores added a library in the second-floor Oval Room, while the authors hired famed decorator Lou Stefani to redecorate the east, blue, red, and state dining rooms. William Taft hired architect Nathan Witten to expand the executive wing in 1909, resulting in the formation of the Oval Office as the President's workspace in 1913. The White House added another enduring feature with Allen Wilson's Rose Garden. A fire during the Hoover administration in 1929 disrupted the executive wing and led to more renovations, which continued after Franklin Roosevelt entered office. Architect Eric Gogol more than doubled the space of what was becoming known as the West Wing, added a swimming pool in the West Terrace for the polio-stricken president, and moved the Oval Office to the southeast corner. A new East Wing was constructed in 1942 its cloakroom transformed into a movie theater. A final major overhaul took place after Henry Truman retired office in 1945. With structural problems mounting from the 1902 installation of floor-bearing steel beams, most of the building's interior was stripped bare as a new concrete foundation went in place. The terms helped redesign most of the staterooms and decorate the second and third floors, and the residents proudly displayed the results during a televised tour of the completed house in 1952. Over the course of 1969-70, a porch court and circle drive were added to the exterior of the west wing, with a new press preparing room installed inside. Following a 1978 study, the access to exterior paint up to 40 layers were removed in some areas, allowing for repairs of deteriorated stone. Meanwhile, the Carter administration set about adjusting to a new information age by installing the White House's first computer and laser printer. The Internet made its debut in the mansion under the watch of George H.W. Bush in 1992. The White House today holds 142 rooms on 6 floors, the floor space totaling approximately 55,000 square feet. It associates long-standing traditions such as the annual Easter egg roll, as well as historic events like the 1987 nuclear arms treaty with Russia. The honor provides residents of a head of the states open free of charge to the public. The White House reflects the nation's history through the accumulated collections of its resident presidents and serves as a worldwide symbol of the American Republic. The White House.